Hi and welcome to Christian Network Show, where we tell the truth about the Bible. Tonight's topic is Genesis 19 verses 4 and 5. Our guest once again is Rabbi Iceberg. Welcome again.
Thanks, Richard. It's so good to be back.
Tell our viewers the truth about Genesis 19 verses 4 and 5, please.
Sure thing. Genesis 19 verses 4 and 5 reads, "Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, 'Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them.'" This text in Genesis 19 verses 4 and 5 used to erroneously give the nomenclature of sodomy to homosexual sexes from the 17th or 18th century BC biblical account. This text actually does not refer to an act of consensual sex, or to homosexual sex at all. It refers to an act of sexual violence, degradation and male rape, as also does the passage in Judges 19 verse 22. These sexual acts committed by the men of Sodom are acts of violence and sexual brutality, used to show the hatred and fear of the men of Sodom for those they consider as strangers, who they are thereby degrading and humiliating. This act of forced sex is not an act of love, nor is it one of caring, nor is it based upon either party's sexual orientation. There are religious ministers and rabbis who view this degradation and humiliation as an act of homosexuality. They could not be further from the truth. That they do so speaks more to their own bias and lack of understanding than to their desire to be true to the meaning of the original text. The Hebrew prophet, Ezekiel, who wrote his writings much closer to the writing down of this Torah story, actually addresses directly the question of what the sin of the people of Sodom was. He writes in his chapter 16, "As I live, declares the Lord God, your sister Sodom and her daughters did not do what you and your daughters did. Only this was the sin of your sister Sodom, arrogance. She and her daughters had plenty of bread and untroubled tranquility. Yet she did not support the poor and the needy." In chapter 13 of Genesis, we are told that the land of the Jordan plains upon which the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah stood was like God's own garden. Now, the people of Sodom were wicked and given to sin. Towards Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh especially they practiced idolatry. The Hebrew word Sodom is etymologically related to the Hebrew word, fertile field. The implication is that Sodom was a fertile farming area, good for grazing animals. The Hebrew word Gomorrah derives etymologically from the word meaning sheaf of grain. By using these names for these cities, the writer is implying that the area of Sodom and Gomorrah was good for the growing of grains like wheat, barley, oats, rye, etc. This is also why the prophet Ezekiel states, "She and her daughters had plenty of bread and untroubled." So, what then were the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah? The sins of Sodom were social injustice, waste, overindulgence and insolence. These were the crimes of Sodom, not homosexuality.
Very informative and insightful, Rabbi Iceberg. Is that all?
No, Richard. There are a lot more still.
Great. We'll continue after the break.